Thinking about living together before you get married? Just don't do it. As a Catholic priest, I've helped over 100 couples prepare for marriage. And one of the topics that continues to surface is the question of cohabitation, or living together before marriage. Now, invariably, couples ask, why does the Catholic Church still dissuade engaged couples from cohabitating before marriage? Wouldn't it be more prudent for couples to try it out, see how they get along, before they make the marriage commitment? Well, no, it is not wise for couples to live together as a preparation for marriage. But why? First, statistics vary as to the numbers, as they always do, but they overwhelmingly indicate that engaged couples who do cohabitate before marriage are far more likely to divorce than couples who don't. But this statistical correlation does not necessarily indicate causality. We must still ask, is there a deeper causal connection between cohabitation before marriage and divorce after marriage? Well, I would suggest that there is, and the connection can be found in what many priests and marriage counselors have called an ethic of limited commitment. An ethic of limited commitment, which cohabitating couples are likely to embrace, is directly contrary to the very meaning of marriage. So, what is an ethic of limited commitment? When couples ask me this, I start with the illustration. Imagine the scenario. Every morning, a man sees a beautiful woman in the same coffee shop. Now, he's very attracted to the woman, and he tells himself, I'm going to talk with her to see how it goes. I got nothing to lose. If it doesn't work, well, we'll just go our separate ways. Well, he talks with her. He learns her name, what she does, where she works. It really goes well. They become acquainted. After a few weeks, he tells himself, I'm going to ask her to lunch sometime, just to see how it goes. I got nothing to lose. After all, if it doesn't work out, we'll just go our separate ways. So they go to lunch, and they have a great time. They love each other's company. They go to dinner a few times. They see some shows. And after a few weeks, he tells himself again, I'm going to ask her if she's interested in a committed relationship. I got nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, well, we'll just go back to being friends. So they commit. They're now an item, a we instead of two I's. Their friends know them as a couple, and they love their life. They get along, they share ideas and values, and they're growing in love for each other. Now, after a few months, he tells himself, I'm going to ask her if she wants to move in together. After all, if it doesn't work, we'll just back out. They now live together, and they have a great life. After a few months, he says to himself, wow, I really love this woman. I'm going to ask her if she wants to marry me. Now, after I describe this scenario to couples, I ask them, what's wrong with the whole paradigm? What's wrong with the whole picture? Now, they usually pause in confusion, since this paradigm that I have illustrated is so common to our contemporary experience of dating. But after a few moments, they realize each step in the process was a step of incremental yet limited commitment. Each increasing level of commitment on the journey to marriage, no matter how great or small the commitment was made with a caution, a caveat that said, if it doesn't work, then I'll bail. Now, the truth is this. Marriage is not just one more step in a series of limited dating commitments. The final step of marriage is categorically different from every other stage that came before. If that final step of marriage is to be marriage at all and not just one more level of limited commitment, it can never say to itself, well, if it doesn't work, then. No, for marriage there is no if it doesn't work. Marriage is until death. Now, this is the connection between cohabitation or trial marriage and divorce. Cohabitating couples who marry make the commitment to marriage after what is, in many cases, years of practice in relationships of limited commitment. They have been conditioned to hold something back every step of the way. Limited commitment is all that they know. Thus, when they do make the commitment to marriage, there remains that small voice in the back of their minds, even if in their subconscious, that says, if it doesn't work, I'll bail. Now, I, as a Dominican priest, have a vow to celibacy, and I will never marry. But my own vow still contains a parallel to this commitment to marriage. I can testify from my own experience to the radical choice of making a vow to be all in and hold nothing back. About a decade ago, 1 week before I entered the Dominican order for the first time, I received a phone call from an old spiritual guide. I couldn't take the call at the time, but he left me a voicemail. He said, "Bradley, I think you have a religious vocation. I want you to enter the door of the novitiate and say to yourself, I am going to make it work. If you enter and have even one eye on the exit, you will walk through the exit. It might not be a week, a month, a year, or even 5 years, but if you have one eye on the exit, you will walk through the exit." Now, I took those words to heart. My friend was right. Commitment is hard. If I allowed myself the condition of leaving when things seemed to not be working, I would have left a dozen times. Because anything worth committing ourselves to will be difficult. Now, I can say exactly the same thing to couples preparing for the vows of marriage. If you enter marriage and have even a hint of the ethic of limited commitment, if even in your subconscious you say to yourself, if it doesn't work out, I'll bail, then at some point you will bail. Again, it might not be a week, a month, a year, or even 10 years, but at some point you will bail. Now, I am not saying that every cohabitating couple's marriage will end in divorce, nor am I saying that a couple who doesn't cohabitate will live happily ever after. Also, I am not claiming that there is something intrinsically evil about living under the same roof as another human being. I know full well that many engaged couples are in situations far more complex than I could understand. But in the modern world, if a couple cohabitates before marriage as a type of trial marriage, it is highly probable that they have indeed adopted an ethic of limited commitment. And if they have adopted an ethic of limited commitment, well, they're already practicing being divorced. Since a marriage of limited commitment is no marriage at all. Brothers and sisters, keep studying. This is Father Brad Elliott for the Western Dominican Province. You've been watching Truth in 60. For more exclusive videos, download the OPwest app. Link is in the description.